I want to welcome everybody. It's delightful to see all of you here for this evening's presentation. And you'll come back later and enjoy it, I promise. I promise. Anyway, tonight's presentation is Jules and James, Thurber and Pfeiffer. And thanks to Al Glover and Gila Zalan, we have this wonderful production. But before we get started, I want to special thanks to those people behind the scenes that are always there. Our wonderful Joe, there's no show without Joe. Our dear Susan Shuey, you need it, Susan's there to take care of it, whatever the problem is. And then there's my dear Mark, who gets us our videos. Having said all that, let's the show go on. Gila?
In the event, some of you are not familiar with our two guests this evening, let me give you a little bit of an intro. Both James Thurber and Jules Pfeiffer were cartoonists, writers, playwrights, humorists. They never met during their lifetimes. Thurber was born in 1894. He died in 1961. Can you figure out how old he was? Don't tell them. Pfeiffer, on the other hand, was born in 1921, and he's still alive. So, they both wrote for the same magazines. They both were in the same milieu, and yet they never met. And so I thought, in the spirit of the coming Halloween, we would invite the ghost of James Thurber to meet Jules Pfeiffer here. And so they are here in spirit to tell you about themselves.
So what's so funny?
In spirit. In spirit. I mean, you were bouncing around and writing books, but me, my last two books were published in 1957 and 1959. I mean, I am the spirit. So what do you think was so funny?
Well, actually, The Spirit was the name of a comic strip I helped edit when I was 17 years old. It was so long ago, I almost forgot.
For two cartoonists and humorist commentators, quite a pair. You losing your memory, and I lost my eyesight.
Yes, it's true, you were completely blind at the time you died. Well, I have my full eyesight to this day, but my memory, I guess it's typical of my age.
Now that the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, I have something I would like to tell you about me, James Thurber. You see, when I was only 7 years old, my brother and I were playing a game of William Tell, the guy with the bow and arrow and the apple, and my brother shot me in the eye, which caused me to be blind in one eye most of my life, and totally blind by the time I wrote my last two books, The Wonderful O and My Years with Ross, both in 1957, 4 years before my purported death.
Right.
A dance to 2023. This year's dance is an attempt to a systematic approach that I did not have in prior years. It rejects the too easy alienation of my dance of 2022. It eliminates the claustrophobic disillusionment of my dance of 2021. It shuns the boastful nonconformity of 2020. And it eliminates the too easy approach of prior years of 2019, 2018, 2017, and 2016. This year's dance is strictly pragmatic. It's realistic in its appraisal of the world, unsentimental in summing up my position in it.
The Shrike and the Chipmunks.
once upon a time, there were two chipmunks, a male and a female. The male chipmunk thought that arranging nuts in artistic patterns was more fun than just piling up as many as you could pile up. The female was all about piling up as many as you could. She told her husband that if he gave up making designs with nuts, they would have more room in their large cave for a great many more, and soon he would be the wealthiest chipmunk in the woods. But he would not let her interfere with his designs, so she flew into a rage and she left him.
The shrike will get you because you are helpless and cannot take care of yourself.
To be sure, the female had not been gone 3 nights when the male had to dress for a banquet, but he could not find his studs, his shirt, or suspenders, so he couldn't go to the banquet. But it was just as well, because everyone who did go to the banquet were attacked and killed by a weasel. The next day, the shrike began hanging around outside the chipmunk's cave, waiting to catch him. He couldn't get in the cave because it was clogged by dirty laundry and soiled dishes. But he had a thought.
You'll come out for a walk after breakfast, and I will get him then.
But the chipmunk slept all day and didn't get up and have breakfast until after dark. Then he went for a breath of air before beginning work on a new design. The shrike swooped in to snatch up the chipmunk, but could not see very well on account of the dark, and battered his head against an alder branch and was killed. A few days later, the female chipmunk returned and saw what an awful mess the house was in. She went to the bed and shook her husband.
What would you do without me?
Just go on living, I guess.
You wouldn't last 5 days.
She swept the floor and did the dishes and sent out the laundry, and then she made her husband get up, wash, and dress.
You can't be healthy if you lie in bed all day and never get any exercise.
So she took him for a walk in the bright sunshine, and they were both attacked and killed by the shrike's brother, a shrike named Stu. Moral: early to rise, early to bed makes a man healthy, wealthy, and dead.
So here you are, blind as a bat and dead at the ripe old age of 67, a mere child in this day and age.
But your day and age were quite different from mine. I mean, you are 94 and probably feel as young as I did, even younger, when I was in my early 60s.
Probably, but keep this to yourself. I'm a 21-year-old kid who's making believe he's an old man. It's amazing how long I've gotten away with this and how good I am at this old man act, this wheezing, this hard to walk, hard to breathe nonsense. I mean, no one, absolutely no one has caught on that I'm faking it. Oh, my back. Oh, but it really is an act. I mean, I thought at the beginning it might be fun to see how long I could go with this, but nobody has caught on. I mean, I fooled everyone. I've even fooled my wife. She thinks I'm an old man. That's a problem. How can I tell her the truth without her feeling that I've made a fool of her? But that wasn't my intention. I was just having a little fun. I was going to play a game, and it just sort of got out of hand. Now I'm stuck. I can't go back to being 21. It'd be humiliating. So I'm stuck playing this old man. Shh, it's a secret.
At first I found him amusing. Such a younger man. So unaware. I felt sorry for him. I told him I was far too old for him, but he kept calling. He begged to see me. I felt sorry for him. I refused to let him pay my way. We did everything Dutch. He never knew how to argue. I felt sorry for him. He began coming by at night. He'd bring beer and we'd sit and talk for hours. He was such a baby. I felt sorry for him. I lent him books and advised him about life, but he was so unprepared. I felt sorry for him. Then he began to get demonstrative. And I told him he really didn't want me, he wanted a mother. But he was so persistent. I felt sorry for him. So I submitted. Now he thinks I'm a tramp.
So here we are, both humorists, both writers, both cartoonists, and we've never met.
Not that I recall, so tell me about yourself.
Me? Well, let's see, I was a baby in Columbus, Ohio near the turn of the 20th century. My dad always wanted to be an actor, and my mom was born comedian. How could I help but write comedy, or at least comedy as I saw it? In fact, humor was in my blood. But here's my secret. Yes, I was injured playing William Tell with my brother, but sometimes good comes from bad. Because I couldn't participate in sports or other childhood activities, I sat around and let my imagination work overtime. I developed a creative mind, which neurologists suggest could be explained by Charles Bonnet syndrome, a condition that causes complex visual hallucinations in some people who have had some visual loss. And that's me.
The Hen in the Heavens. Once upon a time, a little red hen was out in the yard picking up stones, worms, and seeds, and something fell on her head.
The heavens are falling.
All the hens that she met, and all the roosters and turkeys and ducks, they all laughed at her, smokily, the way you would laugh at somebody who is terrified and you aren't.
What did you say?
The heavens are falling.
Don't be silly, my dear. It was just a pebble that hit you in the head.
And he laughed, and everybody else except the little red hen laughed. Then suddenly, there was an awful roar, and large chunks of crystallized cloud and large pieces of icy blue sky fell from the heavens, and everybody, the ducks and the turkeys and the little red hen were all killed. For indeed, the skies really were falling. The moral, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they did.
In this dance, I have symbolized the summer solstice in its declension. The tides, the sand, the sea, the summer flowers, the sandpipers, the good fisher folk, the main boardwalk, insect repellent, baby oil. All are gathered in organic unity. All testify to man and nature as being one.
What's she doing that for?
To lose weight.
know, the Bronx, New York, where I was born in 1929, is a hell of a long way from Columbus, Ohio in 1894. Not only because I grew up Jewish in a household and you were Christian, but because I grew up in the Depression, just after the Jazz Age, which was bigger in New York than in Ohio. I mean, a lot of my peers were on drugs. My father found it hard to keep a job. In other words, you were pretty much middle class, and we were anything but. And then came the war.
I know you were too young to fight in the war, but if you weren't, would you have?
I don't think so. I mean, I was always a lefty. I was a pacifist, even though this was a war that was worth fighting for, especially for Jews.
I tell you, pacifism as a broad policy is unrealistic. For instance, if I was to take and shove your lady friend here, wouldn't you do something like hit me to protect her?
That's a tired old argument, but I'll answer it anyway. No. I feel that there are better means of defense other than violence. Violence met with violence is a very bad thing. There's a minor provocation mushrooms into a war. I feel that are better means of communicating than that.
You don't believe that yourself. I'm shoving her. Doesn't that make you mad?
It raises my feelings, yes. But to meet violence with violence is no answer. As you can see, there's a chain reaction that's set off. A move, a counter reaction. A counter move, a counter reaction. Eventually there is so much hostility that no corrective measures can be taken.
You know, you're lots of fun.
You are too. I had no idea. That's great.
Oh.
Let's say we get out and go get a drink.
That sounds wonderful.
I hate war.
I found a flower.
I found a flower.
Oh, but my flower is big and beautiful. It's so robust.
Well, that's true.
Your flower is dark and ungainly and probably won't live till morning.
Well, it will be a struggle.
I love my flower for its grandeur and richness.
I love my flower for its spiritual values.
What spiritual values?
My flower is a tragic flower. It has poetry. It has soul.
So just because my flower is a big flower, it can't have poetry?
Well, mine has to survive daily. It's involved with the very important things in life. It broods about the deep things.
Are you saying my flower's a dilettante?
Well, your flower is rich and it probably has a leisure problem.
I feel like hitting your flower over the head with my flower.
My flower would die lovingly.
Oh, I apologize. My flower is vulgar.
Oh, my flower truly understands. Oh, is that your flower?
Oh, no, it's not my flower. I was just looking at it.
Oh, it's a lovely flower. Do you mind if I watch with you?
Well, you know, do as you like. Like I said, it's not my flower.
Well, nice, and I would really like to watch with you.
It'd be lovely if I had to look at the flower all by myself. I mean, I only watch flowers in hopes that someone will come along and share the watching with me.
Oh, so you don't really love that flower? You're just using it?
Well, that flower has its own beauty, and I have as much as it does. What beauty has a flower if it's unwatched?
Do many people come along and watch with you?
You're the first in a long time.
Oh, it must be lonely for you. So why do you watch?
How else am I going to meet beautiful ladies from Laguna Woods Village?
So you were really political, a lefty as we call it, and I guess I was more into the foibles of the human psyche. We were both around during that awful McCarthy hearing, but you were much more involved.
Crazy thing is, Roy Cohen was my cousin. No, really. And I wrote about it in my book, Backing into Forward. So, yeah.
Well, like you said, I inhabited a different world, but that's not to say I was totally apolitical or had no views on what's going on at the time. I truly believe that the nation that complacently and fearfully allows its artists and writers to become suspected rather than respected is no longer regarded as a nation possessed with humor or depth.
I agree.
The very proper gander. Not so very long ago, there was a very fine gander. He was strong and smooth and beautiful, and he spent most of his time singing to his wife and children. One day, somebody saw him strutting up and down in his yard and singing.
There is a very proper gander.
An old hen overheard this and told her husband about it that night in the roost.
I heard something about propaganda.
I suspected something. Listen up, everybody. That gander is a very dangerous bird. More than likely, he's a hawk dressed in gander's clothing. He is up to no good.
I remember seeing him talking with some hawks in the forest.
Oh, and I remember him once saying that he didn't believe in anything. He said, "To hell with the flag!"
And I saw somebody who looked just like him throw something that looked a great deal like a bomb.
Finally, everybody snatched up sticks and stones and descended on the gander's house. He was strutting in his front yard.
There he is!
Unbeliever! Hawk lover!
So they set upon him and drove him out of the country. The moral: anybody who you or your wife is going to overthrow the country or the government by violence must be thrown out of the country.
A dance to the new year. In this year, I have symbolized peace on earth and goodwill to all men. Wait a minute. I want to clarify that last statement. I mean peace, yes. Oh, but without appeasement on the aforementioned earth. And naturally, goodwill to all men. Yes, to all men, goodwill. Well, I mean that we should have goodwill to all those men who are, well, you know, men of goodwill. Wait a minute. By all men, I mean only those men whom we recognize as being reasonable and willing to see our side as well as their own, and certainly they don't have a double standard or pretend to be uncommitted. So really, what this dance symbolizes is a reasonable, cautious approach to arms control on earth and a fruitful negotiation to some men. I call it the bends.
Other than political leanings, I never wanted to admit that my family had any influence over me. The truth is, my mother was, to put it mildly, a difficult woman. She was a fashion designer. She made watercolor drawings and sold her designs to manufacturers. And then she went around and sold the designs door to door for $3, which in those days was probably pretty good. But she resented being the family breadwinner. I think she wanted my father to earn the money so she could just be an artist. And she showed her resentment to everyone.
I guess my experience was similar, but with different consequences. My father also didn't keep a job for long. Of course, it was harder for women to earn a living in those days, but I think my mother may have tried. She was a born comedian, one of the finest comic talents I have ever known. Listen to this. One day, she pretended to be disabled and went to one of those revival meetings. And in the middle of it, she jumped up and she said, "She's healed!" It was hard to hold back the laughter.
So maybe you got some of your humor from her. That's nice. But don't get me wrong, my mother definitely had an influence on me. She bought me a drawing desk when I was very young and urged me to draw. And then she got me enrolled in the Art Student League in New York City. I learned early on how to draw. I won a crayon drawing contest to make a character of the great Tom Mix. Remember him? So she kept encouraging me despite her nastiness and ill humor. Maybe she thought I lived my life through hers.
Ever since they were little, I told them they would grow up and leave us and break our hearts. Didn't I or didn't I tell them?
That's the way children are today. They don't listen.
And what did they say? "No, Papa, we'll always take care of you." What did they say? Did they not say that?
Children always have to contradict.
I had to slip notes under the door. Don't tell me you won't break our hearts. I'm your father.
Notes in a family? Who taught them how to read?
But I told them, didn't I? Hundreds of times, didn't I? No, they said, "We'll never leave you." And the next day it's, "Can't we have a little privacy?"
Privacy? Who paid the doctor bills?
So they grew up and they left us. So who was right? The father or the children?
A child? How can a child be right?
But, you know, a funny thing happened. They didn't break my heart. As a matter of fact, I felt a whole lot better.
Me too, 100%.
After all these years, what a discovery to make. We never liked children.
The Little Girl and the Wolf. One afternoon, a big wolf in a dark forest waited for a little girl to come along carrying a basket of food to her grandmother. Finally, a little girl did come along, and she was carrying a basket of food. "Are you carrying that basket to your grandmother?" said the wolf. The little girl said, yes, she was. And the wolf asked her where her grandmother lived, and she told him, and he disappeared into the woods. When the little girl opened the door to her grandmother's house, she saw that there was somebody in bed with a nightcap and a nightgown on. She had approached no nearer than 25 feet from the bed when she saw that it was not her grandmother, but the wolf. For even in a nightcap, the wolf does not look any more like Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer than Calvin Coolidge. So the little girl took an automatic out of her basket and shot the wolf dead. Moral: you can't fool little girls like you used to anymore.
A dance to the loss of innocence. In this dance, I have symbolized youth. Its hopes, its wishes, its dreams, its choice of friends, of lovers, of gods. Youth, bright and eager to search life for its meaning, certain in the knowledge it will find that meaning. And then comes disillusion. The disappointment of friends. The inadequacy of lovers. The failure of gods. The gaining of bitter insights. There is no one who doesn't lie. There is nothing incorruptible. They're all cheats and out to get each and every one of you. I don't believe a single word of those no good, dirty Forget it. I don't feel like dancing.
So we both did a lot more than just draw cartoons. I know you wrote a lot of articles, stories, books. Fill us in on some of them.
Well, probably the most famous was The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, that was made into a great movie with Danny Kaye. Remember that one?
Oh, sure, I love that. Really different from my movie, Carnal Knowledge, which Mike Nichols adopted from my book.
Right, you wrote other plays as well.
Yeah, I did Little Murders, Knock Knock, The White House Murder Case, Pfeiffer's People, which the audience is watching some of here tonight. But my biggest interest later in life were my graphic novels. In fact, I think I was the first one to have ever done something like that. My first one was Kill My Mother.
Okay, let's not get into that again. Let's see some more of Pfeiffer's People instead.
It's like she's made of ice.
Mall.
What does she think I am, from outer space? I brushed my teeth before I came here.
Flesh. All I am is flesh jam.
She was affectionate enough in the Chinese restaurant. In a mob, she's always affectionate.
Hey, you're so nice when we're outside.
All the way up here, I couldn't get her off my neck.
Outside, I could squeeze his hand and bite his ear, and he never gets the wrong idea.
But once we get indoors, suddenly it's, you only recognize your own needs, Bernard.
Why does he change so? Do I somehow threaten him?
I know she's alive. I saw her lip curl.
Didn't just put on those damn flamenco records.
Well, it's late, Gladys. I should be going.
As you wish, Bernard.
Same time tomorrow?
Of course.
All right, I will if you really want me to.
Oh, I do. I really do.
But there's one thing you must know before we do it. There's something about me you must understand.
Tell me. I'll understand.
I'll feel guilty.
You won't. I promise you, you won't.
It doesn't matter. I feel guilty every time. It's a characteristic.
We'll see. We can work it out.
You understand it has nothing whatsoever to do with you. It could be you or anybody.
I'm glad.
I mean, you do understand, don't you? I feel so much better talking it out.
Gran.
I'm ready now.
Forget it.
Okay. Put on your shoes and I'll walk you to the subway.
Don't worry about it. I have never met anyone so crude in my life. People are animals. They eat, they drink, they sleep, People are animals.
Yeah, animals. Put on your shoes and I'll walk you to the subway.
You want everything your own way. Like, you're spoiled. You think when you meet a woman and she lets you put your arm around her and she lets you kiss her and she pays for your dinner and she takes you to the theater and she goes with you to your apartment, then you can have everything your own way. You're spoiled.
Yeah, spoiled. Now, put on your shoes and I'll walk you to the subway.
I have needs too, you know. This may come as a big surprise to you, but I'm a person. I read paperbacks.
Yeah, paperbacks.
You know, you just can't use me the way you think you want to. You know, I have feelings too. You know, I'm not just somebody you can just push around. People don't like to be pushed around.
Pushed around? Put on your shoes and I'll walk you to the subway.
Wow, you certainly gave me a different impression on the street. I mean, on the street, beneath your animal pose, I thought there was a kind, sensitive soul, you know, who in youth was treated terribly and so, you know, was acting tough, but with the care and patience and understanding from the right woman, he would melt. And that's why I came up here with you, not for the reasons you think. I came up here to help you melt.
Melt. Now, put on your shoes and I'll walk you to the subway.
All right, I don't know why you have to be so nasty. You know, I mean, read paperbacks. I take him to dinner. Do all these things. You know, women don't like to be talked into things. You can't just push us around. You know, we need a little time.
Time? Put on your shoes. I'll walk you to the subway.
We've hardly even talked. You women like to talk. Well, I know what you're going to say. Women like me, they use talk to avoid action. And, in spirit, I agree with you, but I can't help being who I am. I mean, I can't help coming from my background, and I can't help being a product of my environment. In my crowd, we talk first.
Talk, yeah. Put on your shoes, I'll walk you to the subway.
You're a very strange man, Huey. I think the reason you are so anxious to get rid of me is because I'm the first woman who's ever challenged you. That gives you pause for thought, doesn't it? You're used to women falling all over you. Now, you're a very attractive man, but I don't fall all over men. Interesting to see you so puzzled. I do puzzle you, don't I?
Puzzle. Put on your shoes and I'll walk you
No,
to the subway.
look, I'm not a threat to you. I mean, honestly, all we have to do is just talk a little bit and everything's going to be fine. And I'm starting to feel a little bit better anyway. I know that I could really relax with a few beers.
I think I'm out.
Well, I have money.
You got enough for cigarettes?
Well, sure. Is there a delicatessen around here?
Yeah, right around the corner. Why don't you pick up a couple of sandwiches?
Oh, what kind would you like?
I trust you.
Oh, I'm so glad. You see, I told you there wouldn't be anything to worry about. Everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
You not only have a problem, a mother problem, it looks like you've also got a problem with relationships. How many times have you been married?
Just 3. But the third is always the magic number. And I was in my 80s by the time I married my third wife.
For me, my second marriage was the magical one. Of course, I died so young at the age of 67. Who knows if there may have been a third one, if I lived as long as you.
The unicorn in the garden. Once upon a sunny morning, a man who sat in a breakfast nook looked up from his scrambled eggs to see a white unicorn with a golden horn up quietly cropping the roses in his garden. The man went up to the bedroom where his wife was still asleep and woke her.
There's a unicorn in the garden eating roses.
A unicorn is some mythical beast.
She turned her back on him, and he walked slowly downstairs and out into the garden. The unicorn was still there, browsing among the tulips.
Here, unicorn.
And he pulled up a lily and gave it to him. The unicorn ate it gravely, with a high heart, because there was a unicorn in his garden. The man went upstairs and roused his wife again.
The unicorn ate a lily.
You are a booby. I'm going to have to put you in the booby hatch.
The man who never liked the words booby and booby hatch, and who liked them even less on a shining morning when there was a unicorn in the garden, thought for a moment.
We'll think about that. The unicorn had a golden horn in the middle of his forehead.
And he went back to the garden to watch the unicorn. But the unicorn had gone away. The man sat down among the roses and went to sleep. As soon as the husband had gone out of the house, the wife got up and dressed as fast as she could. She was very excited and there was a gloat in her eye. She telephoned the police and she telephoned a psychiatrist. She told them to hurry to her house and bring a straitjacket. And when the police and the psychiatrist arrived, they sat down in chairs and looked at her with great interest.
My husband said he saw a unicorn in the garden and it was eating a lily.
The police looked at the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist looked at the police.
He said it was eating a lily.
The psychiatrist looked at the police, and the police looked at the psychiatrist.
Okay. He said it had this really long horn in the middle of its forehead.
At a solemn signal from the psychiatrist, the police leaped from their chair, seized the wife. She had a hard time subduing her, for she put up a terrific struggle. But they finally subdued her. And just as they got her into a straitjacket, the husband came back into the house.
Did you tell your wife that you saw a unicorn?
Of course not. The unicorn is a mythical beast.
That's all I need to know. Take her away. I'm sorry, sir, but your wife is as crazy as a jaybird.
So they took her away cursing and screaming and shut her up in an institution. The husband lived happily ever after. Moral: don't count your boobies until they're hatched.
I know that sounds like a mean lady, but believe me, I was always of the opinion that women are wiser than men because though they know less, they understand more. And that maybe if women and children were in charge, we would get somewhere.
Maybe, but I'm not so sure. Well, let's talk more about your plays. I mean, this is a theater group. You actually did write some play, The Male Animal, which was a hit on Broadway, and then made into a movie. Did you write anything else?
Not as a play, but some of my stories became a Thurber Carnival on Broadway, where I was lucky enough to actually play myself. And my story, The Catbird Seat, which became the 1959 movie, The Battle of the Sexes.
Innocent love. I have innocent love to give. Won't you take it?
Innocent love? I don't know about innocent love, but it has a tendency to inhibit me.
Undemanding love. I have undemanding love to give. Won't somebody take it?
Undemanding love, that gives me a guilt feeling. Try somebody else.
Never been tapped love. I have love that's never been tapped before. Won't somebody take it?
Untapped love drowns, not me.
Stifled love. I have stifled love to give. Won't you please take it?
Stifled love makes me rather uncertain. I'm sure you'll find somebody else.
I have embittered love to give. Look, anybody gonna take it or not?
No thanks.
Why, you poor thing. Come on up to my place and let's talk about it.
Really fun, but I had more fun writing my graphic novels or graphic stories than anything else. The writer Larry Dubois said that I had no stories to tell. He said, and I quote, his main concern was to explore character in a series of a dozen or so pictures. He would show the shifts of mood that flicker across the face of men and women as they tried, often vainly, to explain themselves to the world. It would be no exaggeration to say that his dialogue is as acute as any that is being written in America today. Dialogue aimed at sophisticated minds, usually with the purpose of shaking them out of the sophistication and into real awareness.
Oh, nice, I like that. And of course your dialogue was part of what was called your graphic stories, cartoons with dialogue. You had a long list of awards for all your writing, and mostly your cartoons. Congratulations. You've had a long life and you're still at it. I've read many of your work, and I truly enjoyed meeting you at last.
My sentiments as well, and despite your eyesight problems and what went through your final years, you too had a long list of awards and recognitions, tons of books, people still read, lots of nice TV shows about your life and your writings. Here's to you and your extraordinary talent.
A dance to spring. Dance. Dance. Oh. Oh. A snowflake. A snowflake. And then a lot. Directors, I know they don't want extra recognition, but they did a beautiful job, Gila and Al. And if you like this month, next month it's going to be a wild night, as an Oscar wild. So come back and enjoy again. Thank you for coming.